New Zealand Opera General Director Brad Cohen is a world-famous conductor, particularly of Italian operas, and he's leading New Zealand Opera's upcoming performance of Rossini's risque classic Le Comte Ori, or The Count Ori, for New Zealand audiences in a few weeks' time. But Cohen is also an entrepreneur, having established 3 music tech startups, as he told NBR's Dita Deboni.
All of my 3 startups are about either increasing and making more efficient the money flow to rights owners and rights holders, or to create efficiencies in the way that they serve content. And that's why they've all been successful in their different ways. So the 3 startups in brief were, the first one was called Tido, which is just about to change hands again, I think, but it was a music reading app and a practice app for the iPad. And it combined music notation, which is the dots on the page, with audio, video, masterclass videos, all kinds of resources. It was about giving contexts to the musical piece and supporting people as they learned to play. It listened to you, so when you were playing and you got to the end of a page of music, it would automatically refresh the screen, things that seemed magic at the time. So that was the first thing. The second thing was a different domain. It was about music discovery. So what we identified was that the catalogs for Spotify or YouTube music, they're great for Taylor Swift, but they don't work well with the complexity of how classical music pieces are described. I think Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer, I think there are 974 different ways of spelling his name in Cyrillic, and all the different languages, all the different orthographies and the transliterations of that name. And every multiple naming that you have for a musical person or object leads to leakage in terms of earnings. So unless you do a very specific search on Google, you're always going to get different results for Tchaikovsky. So the second company was called Libmus, which is kind of an abbreviation for Library of Music. It used semantic web search technologies, which hadn't been applied to music before, to create an abstraction layer above the name Tchaikovsky to say, we don't care which of those 974 names you use, we know that they all refer to this person. And that is currently the source of some interest from some major companies. We got quite a long way with Apple towards an acquisition, but then they went another way. But that's currently a really interesting proposition because there is so much money. For instance, there's a whole secondary market in what we call the black box, which is rights that no one knows who they belong to. So they're earning money on Spotify or YouTube. No one knows who is the actual rights holder for that musical work. And if they can't be named correctly, they can't be identified and paid out. There are hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in black boxes around the world that are unassigned rights. So that's a really interesting use case for that technology.
So LibMuse is still, you still own it, it's still going?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the third startup was just a little COVID lockdown project. I thought opera has surtitles, which is the text displayed above the screen, above the stage, to help people understand what on earth is going on. And normally it's created using PowerPoint slides. It's just an absolutely antediluvian technology, and I thought it was time for a refresh. So we use web-native technologies, browsers and HTML to link everything dynamically. It means we can have multiple languages at one time, depending on what the person wants to look at. We can serve everything live to people's mobiles in the theatre if that's what they want. Wow. But also, most excitingly, we can serve it direct to Braille readers who can join the audience for every performance. Currently, we offer audio description and resources for blind and non-sighted patrons, but they tend to be only one show per run. Yeah, sure. And that seems ridiculous. If you've got the technology, you should be rolling out for every show so people can come to whatever show they like. They're not confined to one little niche. So that's a really exciting application of the same technology. The basic thing is it has multiple outputs and multiple rendering possibilities so people can choose what they want to see.
And it's being rolled out in this particular office.
It is actually being rolled out at New Zealand Opera. I describe it as the dowry that I brought to the company. But we're having a lot of fun with it. And the blind community in Auckland particularly, who we're working with closely, are really excited about the possibilities it affords, not just for opera, but for movies and all kinds of other media.
Yeah. How are you finding running companies that are obviously operating all over the world? Is that an issue? Because you've got a big job as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sleep a lot.
Okay, and just finally, what do you enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
I love the imaginative labour of solving problems. But I think in terms of entrepreneurial grit, I've always been good at identifying opportunities, and I think that's the core of entrepreneurial activity. You identify opportunities, and then you work out a way to make them realisable. I find that deeply satisfying intellectually, and it's a long way from the conductor's podium, so I love that.
That's great, Brad. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
For more content just like this and all the latest business and political news, head over to mbr.co.nz.